This is from Lenape Valley Foundation's Instagram account, and I found it interesting that the RINO, Brian Fitzpatrick, honored the CEO of Lenape Valley. Now, I've complained to the county, the county commissioner's office and Brian Fitzpatrick's office about Lenape Valley, which explains why they didn't help me when I complained about their office, because probably they know people who know people who know people. Okay, but I'm going to get into this because Brian Fitzpatrick was supported by the Humane Society. Brian Fitzpatrick knowingly supports Lenape Valley Foundation, an organization with a board member from Charles River Laboratories, which is known to have robbed the taxpayers of research money and to have committed innumerable acts of animal cruelty. So, this person is saying that Sharon Coran is an asset to Lenape and Bucks County. Well, who is this Lisa Policari? Well, Lisa Policari is she's a partner at Penn Wealth Planning. Essentially, if you are white, heterosexual, and a man, don't go to Lenape Valley Foundation, because you are going to be discriminated against, because their board of directors, the people creating the policy for Lenape Valley, which is a anti-white racist policy, are snooty liberal whites. Moving on. Now, to be honest, I left the Republican Party a couple years ago to support Tulsi Gabbard, and I'm very, very happy that I left the Republican Party, because I believe that the Democratic Party is far, far more likely to come back to center, like a center-left policy, than the Republican Party is to come back to sanity. But what I want to point out here, what's a real shame here, is the Humane Society Legislative Fund endorsed Representative Brian Fitzpatrick for Pennsylvania's 1st Congressional District. Why is this horrible? Well, because Brian Fitzpatrick just honored Lenape Valley. Lenape Valley, who has a board member that sits in the company Charles River Laboratories, who robbed the taxpayers out of research money, and who has committed innumerable acts of animal cruelty. Moving on. So as you can see, this is that Lisa Policari, who is a president and partner of Penn Wealth Planning, LLC, and who commented saying that Ms. Coran was the epitome, or whatever, was an asset to Lenape Valley and Bucks County. Now, as I already made a video about this gentleman, Dominique L. Galloway, Ph.D., who sits on Charles River Laboratories, who does psychiatric research. So, of course, he's sitting on the board of Lenape Valley out of the goodness of his heart. Belongs to Charles River Laboratories, who has committed innumerable acts of animal cruelty and has robbed the U.S. taxpayers out of millions of dollars. Now, I already mentioned this, but Charles Rivers Laboratory International has agreed to pay the United States $1.8 million to settle False Claims Act allegations. Charles River Laboratories International, Inc. has agreed to pay the U.S. government $1.8 million to settle claims that it violated the False Claims Act by improperly charging for labor and other associated costs that were not actually provided on certain NIH contracts. So they were robbing the National Institute of Health out of money. The Justice Department announced today. Contractors are expected to deal fairly with federal agencies when receiving taxpayer taxpayer funds, said Acting Assistant Attorney General Chad A. Riedler of the Justice Department's Civil Division. The Department of Justice will continue to ensure that contractors spend taxpayer dollars appropriately and that those who do not are held accountable. Charles River Laboratories is the second largest importer of non-human primates in the U.S. This is from PETA, okay? So Charles River used 9,231 non-human primates in 2017 to test pharmaceuticals. It imprisoned an additional 1,948 non-human primates for other purposes, including breeding. In its tests, animals are force-fed compounds, experimental chemicals are smeared onto their shaved skin, and they are forced to inhale toxic substances. The primates may endure severe abdominal pain, diarrhea, convulsions, seizures, paralysis, bleeding from the nose, mouth, and genitals before they ultimately die or are killed. It's uncommon for animals to receive any, pain medication because it fudges the tests. A summary of Charles River's federal inspection, this is from a federal inspector, reads like a criminal indictment. Failure to offer adequate veterinary care. Well, not offering adequate veterinary care fucks up the research too, you morons. But yet, that's okay. Failure to provide suffering animals with pain relief. This is from a federal inspection. Failure to ensure the psychological well-being of primates. And pathological neglect resulting in horrific deaths of animals. A monkey was scalded to death when her cage was run through a high-temperature mechanical cage washer while she was still locked inside. Charles River was fined $10,000 after 32 monkeys at its Nevada facility were baked alive. This is the organization that has a member that sits on the board of Lenape Valley, which is an organization that the RINO, the liberal RINO, Brian Fitzpatrick, honors. Keep that in mind, especially when you're voting.